Live. You're good.
All right, we are live. All right, happy Friday, everyone. You're tuning into Casual Convo Friday. I'm Tisha, one of the hosts, along with Nate out of Georgia. And today we have our special guests. Yes, guests, plural. This is Craig Clickner and Carrie Bohlig. They are podcasters, they are authors, they are entrepreneurs out of Wisconsin, and they are the owners of Tandem Consulting. Welcome to the show, Craig and Carrie. Good to have you here.
Thank you. Appreciate the invite. We're happy to be here.
Yeah, looking for a discussion, and hopefully we can help some people out.
Absolutely. I'm very excited about this because, you've got entrepreneurs, Nate, myself, of course, you. And then for today, we're talking about how to start your side hustle. And I think that this is going to be so key for people who are tuning in that are like, do I start? Do I keep looking for that job opportunity? What do I do with all these skills that I have? And how can I turn that into a profitable business? So if you are tuning into this, I want you guys to give us a comment, a shout out, say hello, tell us where you're tuning in from, even if you're watching the replay, and let us know what questions you have. And without further ado, Nate, I know you've got our first question, so I'm going to leave it with you.
Well, thank you very much. Well, Craig and Carrie, thanks for coming on. We appreciate you giving us your time today. And I'm going to get started off with the big question. Why start a side hustle? To give us some example of why starting it versus a full business, for example. Just jumping right into that would be a better option for a lot of entrepreneurs.
Absolutely. That is a loaded question for us since we just wrote a book on it. But a couple of things. Number one, you always diversify your investments, right? And everyone talks about diversify your investments, blah, blah, blah. No one ever taught me to diversify my income streams, right? When I was going through college. I will be on the verge of offending some people, but I think it is ridiculous, arguably incompetent to have one way to make money in the 21st century. So you should have more than one way to make money. You should be, you are a dynamic human being. Most people, their job title does not allow them to exercise all their skills and all their abilities. So a lot of people are trying to get this like perfect job that completes them, right? When it's like, it's never going to happen. And even if you do happen to find it, there's no guarantee. The only guarantee with a job is someday you won't have it, right? So diversify from an income standpoint, diversify from a skill set standpoint, and diversify for like an exploration and an ability to like create more choice and agency in your life. So most people we think are in the game are moderate entrepreneurs. So there's not that many Elon Musks of the world, right? That are just going to go create these companies and build them from scratch and become a billionaire. But most people don't want to sit in the cube or the Zoom desk, right, for 50 years, where most of us are somewhere in between. A side hustle is a really beautiful and platform and opportunity to do that and to test that skill and start to develop it versus just like this binary all or nothing, which we think is, for most people, not a good fit and not usually financially smart or responsible. For most people, there's a few exceptions. So we can keep going on that. You want to add a few thoughts?
Yeah,
there?
I mean, that covers the bulk of the list, the main reasons. And I'd add just for the adventure of the game. I think there's a huge fulfillment gap for most professionals in the world. And a lot of that is because they're on the merry-go-round, not a good roller coaster. And entrepreneurship, it's not easy. We'll be the first to attest to that. There's ups and downs, there's highs and lows. There's days that are way harder than being at a job and being employed for somebody else's business. But it's been so worth it for us. And to take not 10 steps, but at least a couple steps into the realm of owning a business and being able to have the security of your job while still being able to take some small calculatable risks is a powerful way to do it so that, you can build your business and scale it with the right reasons and not having to make like choices that will take away your food on the table at night. Maybe if you're 21, go for it. I do think a front hustle is actually a great option for a certain population. It just wasn't for us. So really figuring out, am I more than the natural born hardcore entrepreneur, or does taking more of a moderate approach actually just make practical sense? Because being married to a risk analyst, practical is like our jam. Anything that's like really practical and scalable is a good approach, especially for somebody's first business.
Yes.
Your second business, get crazy. Third, fifth, 10th business, like get even wilder. But your first business, do something that's practical and you can genuinely build and create net profit, as Tisha mentioned. So
Absolutely. I know I've been talking to a lot of people. Naturally, most people I run into, they kind of lean toward, okay, I'm making a little money. My side hustle is going to be jumping into real estate. And, I always bring up to them like, hey, well, that may not necessarily be the best route because it's such a big financial commitment. Like, have you thought about flipping cars or merchandise or apparel or whatever, little things like that, because
Exactly.
you can still get a good return on your investment. You're investing a lot less money, So I really like the whole side hustle gig that you've got going on, like teaching people how to like get those extra income streams coming in. So my next question to you is, what's the first steps to getting that side hustle going? How do you get it going? Let's talk about the fulfillment gap. Let's just walk people through here about taking that leap and getting that side hustle going without jumping too far, but
Right.
actually getting something out of it.
Making real progress.
Exactly.
Love to. Yeah. So 2 myths that we want to dispel, and we talk about this pretty regularly. Number 1, you don't need a business to be your passion. Like whoever came up with that, that's silly. It can be, but it doesn't need to be. So that's one thing. So you can just have an interest in something, or just have a skill, or be good at something, right? And you can use that as a tool to create income, and then whereby create a magical life to allow you to chase your passions. Because I think when some people try to force their passion into a business, you can actually strip the joy from it. We've got a lot of examples of that, Carrie, with photography or whatever else, right? So that's one myth that I want to dispel. The second thing is, you don't have to be an inventor to be a successful business owner. Okay, as a former commercial banker, a lot of the business owners I knew, they owned McDonald's franchises, they owned Applebee's, they had a manufacturing company they bought, or a plumbing company they purchased, or a trucking company their family had, right? So it doesn't have to be like, entrepreneur doesn't necessarily mean business owner per se. And again, for your first business, if you didn't grow up in an entrepreneurial pedigree, you don't have all this like risk tolerance. Like maybe it just makes sense to use systems that already exist, like drop shipping, right? Or flipping something on eBay, where you don't have to build the platform and like change the world, right? So now when you go at it, you start to get a little bit better options for you, and you can be a little bit more practical. Now, again, if you're the Elon Musk of the world, great. But Elon Musk's first company was not SpaceX. It was electronic payment processing. Like, do you think he's passionate about that? Like, I don't think so. He saw a gap in the market and went for it, right? So, so number 1, have that mindset. The second thing is, it's really hard to hit a target with your side hustle if you don't have one. So you can't end up at a specific destination if there's no said destination to drive towards, right? So if you're going to have a side hustle, why? Like, what is your goal? What are you trying to accomplish? Do you just want to make a few $100s? That's okay. Do you want to scale something and be a billionaire? Okay, that's different. That's a different strategy. Do you just want to make 100K and replace your job income and automate it and walk away and like live on the beaches or whatever? Do you not need that much? Do you only need 30? So these things are important because, yeah, right? So these things are important questions because most people get in the side hustle game kind of casually. And we say this a lot. The reason most people fail in their side hustle is because they treat it like one. Meaning they're dabbling and they're poking things with a stick. So we're all for side hustles, but then you got to still take it seriously and have a plan and a strategy. So let me go over to Carrie, because I articulated there for a while. These are far from 1-word answers, I know. So.
No, that's great.
That was good stuff though, Craig. I don't know if you saw, I was like raising my hand. I'm like, I want to be the person on the beach.
Right.
The business is just running and everything is going well. All right, Carrie.
Well, and since we're talking myths, I'll add one other myth is you don't actually have to hate your job to also build a side hustle. Your job could be really rewarding. I was a preschool teacher. I feel like I had one of the best gigs in the world. I loved what I did, but there was still this fulfillment gap, meaning that when I thought about where my job was taking me in terms of lifestyle choices, security compared to where I wanted to be, there was this very large scale divide and there wasn't an intersection. You know, I wanted to be able to travel. I wanted to be sometimes on the beaches, but more on the mountains, Tisha. And just being really honest with myself about what my job was going to provide, and knowing that building a side hustle didn't actually have to affect my job. I could still have that as long as I wanted it. But what was so cool in the way we've done it is that by building a business, it actually makes you even more employable, even though you're less employable long-term, because your skills are growing, your acumen is growing. You start to understand how your employer thinks because you are your own owner, right? You start to think with more extreme ownership. So we've actually seen it really double down in terms of success, where someone can actually scale their job income as they're simultaneously scaling their business
Big
income.
time.
And that's a very, very powerful thing. And so back to like, what do you do once you've figured out the life vision, once you've figured out what a win actually looks like? Then it's really valuable to figure out who's already created it. And we are fanatical about like identifying the who. That's a whole chapter in our book. I don't know a solopreneur who's actually solo built their business. I think everybody in some capacity has tapped into the mindset of somebody way further along and they've piggybacked on it, whether formally or informally.
Mhm.
We're big believers in formally, but just figuring out, we wanted to be scaled out of our jobs. We wanted to be full-time parents and entrepreneurs and have that flexibility. So we found people who'd done it at a young age. And I was able to walk out of my career in my mid-20s. So I think I beat my parents at least by 4 decades in terms of traditional
Could you
retirement.
imagine having to fire up a resume and like apply for something?
That would be rough.
Yeah.
That's
Oh, God.
not in my wheelhouse anymore.
Yeah.
But because I had pretty audacious goals, it's like, okay, who's actually done that? And what we see so often is a lot of people are like trying to win a content contest where it's like, how much content can I consume? How many books can I read? And they're actually like very little of it is really customized around what they actually want and their vision.
Mhm.
And so we believe in choose the who first and then the what. And if you are open-minded enough and you're flexible enough on the medium, then you can just figure that out in a practical sense based on what your mentor or coach or who you're choosing to follow, what they've done, and really work to mimic and model some of that. And again, that's why Craig mentioned photography. I was thinking about going 6 figures in more debt after already having 2 4-year degrees to go to photography school. But it was like, okay, how long is that actually going to take me to get to the desired life I want? Probably a really, really long time. So I was open-minded and flexible in that regard on choosing the what.
Absolutely. Before we jump in, there's quite a few comments just coming back on LinkedIn and on
Sure.
Facebook. Conrad Nelson even saying, she said bodacious. I think he really likes that word. Bodacious and audacious goals.
Yeah.
All right. So I just want to give some shout outs to people who are tuning in live. John, Brian, Conrad, Nat, Gary Rogers chiming in, Vanessa Black joining us also on Facebook. So thanks so much. Keep saying hi. And if you guys have questions, this is a great place to ask them. Carrie and Craig are full of knowledge. So if you're looking at starting that side hustle, then ask away. All right, Nate, you got more questions for us?
Oh,
Back
boy.
to you.
Yeah. All right. So one of the questions I want to ask you is what is life set? Explain that to everybody, because I don't think a lot of people are really familiar with what that word actually means.
They're probably not, because I think we pseudo created it, or at least we're taking it. We want to take it to the next level because it's a missing piece for a lot of folks. So we define mindset in like Carol Dweck's book, or a lot of people will say mindset is your way of thinking and your opinions. Then life set is your way of living and your choices.
Mm-hmm.
And so what we find is there's a big gap between what people consume and they theoretically know versus being able to apply it. So financial management is a very simple example, right? So you can read all these books about how to invest and everything, but it's like, okay, are you managing your cash flow? Do you have a budget? Do you make more money than you spend, right? And so a lot of people try to go into the game of building a side hustle, like I'm going to scale this to multi-millions, but their life set is so screwed up that they can't. And I guarantee the first thing that happens for most side hustlers when they have a job issue or a cash flow issue is the side hustle gets put on the back burner. Like the first thing oh my gosh, I have a health issue, I have a relationship issue, side hustle, back burner, and then it fails, right? And so the more you can make good decisions to set yourself up well financially, spiritually, emotionally, health-wise, then that's going to help you grow a side hustle and build something of substance over time so people can count on you, right? And so that's a quick summary on life set. I mean, there's all different categories of life that are pillars that are important, but in our book, we specifically go more on the financial aspect, just and how it relates to side hustling, because that extra $50, your $100 you were spending on cable is like, why not get Netflix and be done and put that money towards building a business that you say you don't have? Well, actually you do. You're just not applying it correctly because you don't understand the life set, the financial management on how to do it effectively. So that's a quick summary on life set. But Nate, does that make sense? Do you have any follow-up questions, or can we clarify that at all? Or did we drive that point home?
I mean, I think you drove it home. I think the big thing is a lot of people, like you said, it kind of piggybacks off of mindset a little bit. Is like
Mhm.
just wrapping their mind around how a side hustle is going to change their life. Not just necessarily financially, but like the amount of work they got to do. What amount of work is acceptable? Me, I'll work 100 hours a week if I didn't have any family. That's why I was great when I was in the Army, kind of off by myself, and my wife was down here in Georgia. We both just did our own thing because we weren't around each other. But we can't do that when we're actually like living together. So it's
Right.
a whole different dynamic. I think a big thing that people would love to hear about right now is when you're starting that side hustle, how is it easy for them to go ahead and just start taking the necessary steps? Like, should they seek out a mentor first? Should they look for, like you mentioned, piggybacking on somebody that's already had success? Maybe you can create that side hustle within their business or something, things like that. What do you generally advise to people if I just came to you and said, I know I want to do something, I don't have a clue what it is, I don't have any great ideas or anything, but I know I want to do something, I've got spare time, I've got a little spare money, how would you coach me along there? Like, what would your advice be?
That is a really good question. I'll kick this off and then get it over to Carrie quick. So number one, we got to go back to what do you want to do? How do you want to live? What kind of life do you want to create? What kind of person do you want to become? Now that seems theoretical and like blah, 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 but it's super important because if you tell me you want to be a billionaire, that's different than I want to make, 30 grand and live on the beach. So That is important, right? So we start there. Then we go to, instead of the what, we go to the who. Who's already lives that way? Who's already accomplished that? Now, it could be you're committed to a particular medium. We recommend being flexible because you can always go back to that medium on a second business, but you might have a medium that you like really need to do. It's like in your soul. Great. Find someone who's effectively scaled and created the lifestyle that you want. So those are the first two steps, right? Then from there, you have to start evaluating business systems. And we have been conditioned to evaluate and qualify product as consumers. Most of us have never evaluated business systems, and you need a system if you want to scale. So the idea, having a fancy idea is great. I think it's better when people don't have a fancy idea because a lot of times their fancy idea sucks or it's not scalable, right? I mean, I have a list of like 20 business ideas. I'm not pursuing any of those because gosh, the amount of work it's going to take to create real lifestyle from those is like not what I'm looking for, right?
People get emotionally attached to the idea of certain things working, I think is fair to say, right?
Yeah, and they get down a rabbit hole because like they have an interest in badminton. So it's like, let me start a badminton school. It's like awesome, but like, is that really the best way to like enhance your lifestyle, right? So those are the first couple steps. Do you want to talk about maybe evaluating business, like some different factors? And we have a matrix on our website, like on how to evaluate business in sort of a quantifiable way, what might be a good fit for you. Okay. Do you want to speak to that a little, Carrie?
Yeah, I think it's valuable to think about what are your current options, right? A lot of people talk a very, very big game about real estate, as you mentioned, Nate, but like how much capital do you actually have? So if you can't start it, tomorrow or in the next 30, 90 days, again, being a little bit more honest and candid with yourself on what you have access to is really valuable. But some good questions to ask, especially for a side hustler. The type of person that a side hustle is not good for would be someone who isn't really willing to put in evening and weekend hours. Nate, you said you'd work 100 hours a week if you didn't have kids. Well, having kids, that brings up more detailed questions on what you're really willing to invest and where you're willing to put in time and money. We've got 2 young kids. So again, it changes the game on our assessments the last 7-8 years. So a couple of questions is like, am I really willing to invest time and money on evenings and weekends? How much capital do I actually have? Am I willing to travel? Am I willing to invest in educational courses? Am I willing to invest into potentially paying a mentor? A lot of mentors you can access for free, which is awesome. Some you'll likely have to invest somewhat significant income into accessing. So just kind of practical questions. Also, who in your sphere of influence could help you? And taking inventory on your network. And that's why we're hardcore believers in networking in general. Whether you're listening in and you're like, I would never build a business, that's okay. Please, please, please network. Network like you don't need to network, because someday you might actually want to build something, or you might start a nonprofit and suddenly you're like, I wish I had more friends with money. So please take care of your network, be good to them just because it's the right thing to do. And long-term, it might actually, come full circle. But, if you don't have a lot of good people in your network who've already built successful, sizable businesses, then the question is, well, how do I find them? And that's a question we get a lot. And thank goodness for the internet, because they're out there. A lot of successful business owners have a social media presence and many don't, right? So you have to figure out, is the person I'm looking for out there? And if they are, like, be a little bit assertive, try and, slide into their DMs, as the young folks say, comment on their social media stuff. Do a promotion of the book they did, like whatever it takes to get on their radar is really important, and also express good intentions on why you're seeking them out. And just know that it's going to take effort. Like your business coach, your future business coach probably doesn't live in your neighborhood. They're probably not currently on your call list. So you do have to be a bit bold in terms of seeking that type of influence out. And I know you've got some good tips on just like making a case. Like, how do you build a case for a coach?
Yeah. Well, I think the biggest thing is offering to work for free. Like, if you've got someone that you think can really help you, get to know them, like vet them, because what they post on social media might be very different than the reality. You want to know they've actually built something legitimate. Get to know them, get to know their values a little bit, and then offer to help them. Because if someone comes to us and says, hey, can I help you with building your nonprofit website and building it out? It's like, sure. Could I get some time for you for that? Like, maybe, let's talk. Right. And so I'm not asking for free labor on this call. I'm not saying we should even be someone's mentor, but it's just like something for people to be thinking about. Right. And the other thing is, you don't have to scale to Bill Gates to learn about software. No. Right. You don't need Warren Buffett as your mentor to learn about investing. Like, stop trying to be so sexy about it. Find the guy, the biggest house in your city, if you live in a small town, and go up to their house and be like, how'd you make all this money? Like, how'd you own this house? Oh, you inherited it? Never mind. Go to the next biggest one.
Nate, this is our homework assignment for the weekend. Yeah. Find the biggest house, go up and say, hello, how'd you make all that money?
And most people who've been successful, they want to help. Like, there's some part of them that wants to give back, but their time is valuable. So they might only have so much bandwidth. So it just depends on where they're at in their journey. So those are the first couple steps in terms of picking systems. Think things that are already pre-built if you don't have a lot of confidence or great ideas, right?
Or skill level, right?
Yeah, drop shipping, network marketing, or direct sales. You can build an agency, become a real estate agent. I mean, these are ways to just there's already a system. There's a formula for you to get in the game. And then from there, you can scale and do whatever, right? So
right. Mm-hmm. I like that you said this earlier, and we have a question, Nate, if you want to bring it up, from Carl Sean Watkins. But you were saying this earlier, and we've had some comments coming in on, you don't have to make your business something that you're extremely passionate about. Like, it's something that you just get into, because as you said, you might be passionate about it, and then you just quickly have the burnout of, okay, I don't even like this passion anymore. And I think I've experienced that before too, of I don't even want to do this anymore. Like, you get to a point where you're like, I'm over it. I still love it, but I don't want to do this anymore. So good question here from Carl Sean Watkins, who is in the coaching and consulting field. But what are some things that can be done to scale in coaching and consulting?
Oh my gosh, it's such a loaded question as well. So a few
we'll be here for a little longer.
Great. So one of the first things that you can do is productize your knowledge, right? Yeah. So that's building the course, right? The Udemy's, there's a lot of platforms now where you can create courses. We really haven't done that. We've had some people that have told us to do it. We should do it. We haven't got to it, but it's one way to create success. Productize via a book, right? So there's a lot of ways that you can package your knowledge. The other thing is, you have to think about scaling. We just had such a great conversation with a lady last week who, from the inception of her business, was like, I want to travel the world and I want to work 10 hours a week and grow a business, basically. And she did it, right? Because from the beginning, she said, how do I hire people to do the things maybe a little less effectively, and I take less margin, but how do I hire other people to do it?
Effectively enough.
True. Yeah. Right. So there's different things that you can look at for VAs and stuff like that. But in the end, you're probably going to need to build an agency or a consulting firm that coaches people how to coach. And that can be a bit of a racket. There's a lot of people doing that out there. And so you have to make sure that, number one, you're good, Because if you're not good, don't build a business and try to get other people to build a business around it. You have to know, you have to empirically know that you are good. So you have to get good if you're not already. Okay. That would be my first answer to Carl's question. So maybe you like the idea of building a business. Okay, great. But if you really want to scale, you have to get good. And that might take a few years of sucking. Carrie talks about this a lot. This is her quote, but like most people suck at sucking, right? So you have to get confident with being bad just so that you can learn how to get good. And then from there, now you can start to coach and train other people. You can get VAs. You can hire services to do a lot of email marketing or text marketing for you. I mean, there's lots of ways to scale, but you have to be willing to invest financially in most of those things. And a lot of people are too afraid to do that. But you got to have confidence in your skill and your ability to deliver first. Do you want to add anything on that?
Yeah. And specific to Carl's industry, I don't know what it is, but I would say find someone who in his industry has scaled to a significant level and work to get access to their system or process on how they've scaled. So I know it sounds very simple, but it kind of is simple and very logical to us. So that would be my best recommendation. And I would add, don't be afraid to have some tough days and tough months and potentially tough years, because the first couple of years of building anything, although it is incredibly empowering and rewarding, can also really suck and be really hard and defeating. Most business owners don't grow as fast as they want to. Most don't really scale at all. So, there's going to be a little bit of a lag time sometimes in the investment you put in and when the actual results come. So I think that's where you have to develop a deep enough belief and have that bleacher view on what you're doing so that you have faith that, okay, this might be hard for 12, 24, 36 months, but at least I have faith and belief that it is over time going to get me there to said vision, to said destination, if I stay the course. And without that deeper belief and confidence, I think it would be fairly hard to gut through the really hard stages of building a business.
I love that you said that. I'm just applauding over here because I know that there are some people, and I won't name names, but that are saying, okay, my first year is sucky. It's sucky, but I know that the second year is going to get better and it's just going to keep evolving. And I'm like, as long as you believe in what you're doing and you keep putting in the work and the effort, you will get there. Yeah, it sucks.
Mm-hmm.
It sucks. I mean, COVID, especially for a lot of us, was like, okay, I guess we're trying this again and starting all over. And I mean, myself included. And I'm like, all right. And I just keep building it. And I'm starting to really see the fruits of my labor pick back up. So it's, I want to just keep saying that to everybody tuning in that, yeah, the first year, gonna suck. The second year, also gonna suck. But you will get there if you keep believing that you've got this. Thanks, Carrie. Thank you for that. I love it.
Yeah.
I'll say this too. One last little point is I think a lot of people think that they have to jump out there by themselves, like right off the bat. And to kind of piggyback on what y'all are saying, you shouldn't be afraid to just like go to another consulting group or agency or whatever and say, hey,
exactly.
You have people asking about this. Well, guess what? I specialize in this. I've been building this system for 17 years, or I've been doing bookkeeping for 18 or whatever. I can talk to them about it. Can I just like slide in here? Because they'll already have that system in place, like y'all touched on, and you can get access to it. And you may find that is your side hustle. You don't need to take on the entire responsibility. You can just slide in there and almost just be like a second job, but it's not a second job because you get to do it on your own time, if you will, kind of thing. And I think too many people, like y'all said, they're trying to be Elon Musk and Warren Buffett and stuff, and they just find that little thing that works for you. I think it's just a point that we all need to just keep pressing toward people.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. And I mean, what real estate agent, financial planner, successful, once they're good, like they have a big book of business and it's hard to service those clients the way they want. And they're either looking to scale up and get bigger clients, or they're looking to automate and find good people that can help them with those books of business. Right. Mm-hmm. So if you come in and you like talk a good game and back it up with like, hey, I can work for dirt right now, teach me. I mean, you can make some really magical things happen. If you are good, that person will be happy to have you in the orbit, and they'll pay you to stay there once you're good, right?
Work for sweet tea, not dirt.
Yeah, sweet tea, sure.
I want to bring this comment up because I know Conrad and I are chatting here on Facebook too, because he is in the real estate business, and he said, I expected to build this faster. I expected to be faster. Always. And I think that a lot of us want that instant gratification of I'm in it. I want to get the money. I want to get the clients. I want to get this going. And then you're right. Like we feel that motivation kind of seeps out and we're like, why are we doing this? So I'm just going to again encourage you that it's going to happen. You just got to keep putting in the work and believe in yourself. I love Brian's quote here. Makes me laugh. Brian said, can't expect instant results. Creating a business isn't ramen.
I love that.
This is not a 5-minute solution. This is years in the making.
Well, and Tisha, if I can interject for just a second, I know I got to break soon, but like it will happen if you change and you develop the skills. So like think about systematic skill acquisition, right? Like what skills are you getting better at? Maybe you need to learn how to market or sell or something, but like there's a reason you're not getting the success you want. Be okay with that, embrace it, and then just attack the skill, like aggressively attack the skill so that you can be effective in year 3 or 4 or whatever that looks like, right?
Yeah, absolutely. My business coach was on just a little earlier, but I found her because these are women that are scaling their business. They've shown that they're a product of their own product. And I was like, I want that. I want you to teach me that. So it is so much about finding the right people and saying, teach me so I can be just like that. Right. So good stuff. I'm really excited about this conversation. I know that we are coming out of time and I want you to share a little bit in your shameless plug. You have a book out. It is in every bookstore that you said imaginable. And it's So You Want to Start a Side Hustle. So tell us a little bit about that and tell us how people can connect with you both and what's on the horizon for you.
Yeah, I mean, we pretty much talked about the book, what the book is. So you might not need to read it now, but I guess we go into more detail on everything we just talked about. So yeah, I mean, so it's like if what we said today was really resonating with you and you feel like, wow, this is really connecting. This is good content for me to be consuming, then I would say go get the book. If it doesn't, like, don't get the book. Because it's just more of this in detail and broader in scope, right? So yeah, I mean, we were able to build a couple businesses to a space and really use pre-built platforms that gave us a really awesome life. And we're really happy for that. And to be able to share that with people has been super fun. And, you know, man, we just want people to be able to live a life that they're energized and excited about. And we've had that privilege. So man, if it helps, great. Our website is tandemconsulting.co. We have a couple of freebies on there right now, like how to create a life vision, how to actually identify some goals and make quantifiable metrics, as well as, you know, have an actual good budget for side hustlers, sort of the budget design for side hustlers. And then also how to evaluate different business models that might be right for you. So that's the best place to find us, I guess.
Yeah. We're also on LinkedIn. I do a lot of content creation on LinkedIn at Carrie Bohlig. And we also have our Tandem.Consulting on Instagram. So reach out. It'd be great to connect with you. I love the engagement and the questions and interaction from the audience. And thanks so much, Tisha and Nate, for having us on.
Yeah, Nate, excited to hear more about what you do. We probably need to talk offline some more. So thanks for having us.
Absolutely. Look at that networking happening right in front of you.
Exactly.
All right. Well, thanks so much, Carrie and Craig, for joining us out of Wisconsin. Nate, always a pleasure to see you, my friend. And we will be back next Friday with another guest on Casual Convo Friday. Thanks so much, everyone, for tuning in. And we'll see you next time.
See y'all.
Bye. Goodbye. Happy Friday.